Welcome back. This is Beyond the Box Score. I'm Dan Schneier, joined as always my co-host Jacob Gibbs. And for those who are new to Beyond the Box Score, this is a show that debuted a little while ago, thanks to the brainchild of Adam Aizer, who we have on today, who I'll introduce in a moment. And since then, we've expanded it. If you're new to it, the show is going to be a deep dive into data, analytics, and what both Jacob and I take away from watching the All-22 film. This show is going to pinpoint rookies today for you to target, but throughout this month and the next month, we'll be looking to find you all the players that you should target and avoid in your drafts. We'll be taking deep dives on players, rookies specifically, for Dynasty League players who want that edge. And we're going to have fun doing it throughout. Jacob and I are really excited about this. I call this episode, my flu game. Not like Jordan's flu game, because all I have to do is talk on there. But as I go through some kind of sickness that I can't determine yet, and I am too lazy to call a doctor about, I will try to talk to you today about all the rookies. But before we do any of that, and before I get to introduce Adam, I do want to take this time to let everyone know how they can get involved. If you are a fan of Beyond the Box Score or any of our Fantasy Football Today offerings, you probably know already about the FFT Draftathon. But if you don't know about the Draftathon, it's our month-long promotional period where we try to raise money for St. Jude. So please keep an eye on that. More fun events circulating around that. And please, if you haven't already signed up, it's free. Check out the FFT newsletter. You can sign up by just typing into your browser. I'll put a link in the bio at the end of this, but Fantasy Football Today newsletter, Jacob delivers it to your inbox for free. Deep dive, data analytics, anything we miss on the show will be in that newsletter. Without further ado, though, I do want to welcome on Adam Aizer, host of Fantasy Football Today, and he's excited to join us today. How are you doing, my friend Adam? Are you ready for our tennis match?
I'm doing better than you, apparently. You've got mono, and I'm fine. I'm doing well. I am playing tennis tonight. I had a very humbling experience last Friday. It made me realize that this is probably not going to be the year I beat Dan, but next year will be, as I just keep getting better. But I haven't climbed the mountain yet. But I'm doing fine. Other than that, tennis isn't that important. So other than that, I'm doing fine.
Already giving up on a match that hasn't even played yet. This might be an all-time low for Adam Aizer, but he'll make up for it with some Aizer stats to come. Jacob, how are you doing, my friend?
Some are saying we're so back. Adam has already conceded the match. That's amazing.
I have an Aizer stat, though.
Okay, let's start it off with an Aizer stat.
If you listened to, I want to say Wednesday or Thursday last week, we did our favorite late-round wide receivers. And I found that I looked at the last 5 years, Fantasy Pros ADP, of wide receivers drafted in round 9 or later. So that's pick 97 or later in a 12-team league, finishing top 24 either overall or per game. And we have had at least 2 rookies every year,
Wow.
5 straight years, come out of that range and finish in the top 24 either overall or per game. How many rookies overall? It was 12 rookies of the last 5 years and at least 2 every season. So I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. Go ahead, Jacob.
I just said, love it. That's what we're here for today.
And the streak ends. The streak ends this year.
No, the streak continues this year and builds on this year.
Not this year.
Yeah, we'll find him. Trust me, Trey Harris. Keep an eye on him as his ADP continues to drop because of contractual things that will be solved at some point very soon. It's my guess, at least. But yeah, I mean, there was a moment throughout FFT, I think earlier this offseason, Adam, where I said, one of my key takeaways heading into this year's draft is you can never draft rookies too early. You can never be overabundant on the rookies you draft. And I really think they do ultimately end up with league winners. We're going to try to find some today, digging a little bit deeper. But before we do that, I do want to give a heads up to those who have listened, who are just joining us today. If you want more Beyond the Box Score, Jacob and I kicked things off last week by getting into a few things that you'll find very interesting. First, we did our best buys in fantasy football. We did some deep dives on Brock Bowers, Colston Loveland, and a favorite of the show you're going to continue to hear a lot about, RJ Harvey. We also took 3 hours to live stream our opinions on the best quarterbacks in the NFL, Jacob and I. We broke it into tiers. We got a little controversial, which I'm sure you'll see. And it's not a fantasy podcast, but we did drop some fantasy knowledge. Without further ado, though, let's dive into some rookie gems. And this show is going to be all about rookie gems. It's players that you're not getting round 1 of your dynasty draft. It's not the players who are going to be taken in the top half of your redrafts from the rookie class. It's guys that are going a little bit later. And Jacob, I'm going to let you kick things off with a player whose film I know you loved, even though that film took you back at least a year to find.
Yeah, we're going deep, even beyond Trey Harris. Like these are true gems we're trying to find for you here. In 2023, we interviewed Puka Nacua. Last year, we asked like who might be this year's round 5 or later Puka Nacua type, like out of nowhere breakout, and Tyrone Tracy, which maybe we were a little lucky that I have 2 Giants fans on the podcast, but that's who we named. So we're gonna try to keep that going. This year, I'm reaching even deeper into the bag. We've got a round 7 breakout potentially. Can you be a breakout as a rookie? I saw that question posed the other day. I think that was by you guys at FFT.
Yeah, it was by me, and I just 62% said yes, and I am part of the 38, the proud 38% who got it right.
All right, so round 7 rookie Jim, the last running back selected in the NFL draft. His film was spectacular. His data was spectacular, but you did have to go back to the 2023 season to see most of that. So it's Jacory Croskey-Merritt, and he does kind of remind me of Puka in that his career arc was non-traditional, and so I think that affected his draft capital. He transferred around. He only got to play 1 game in his final season because of eligibility issues. But if you look at the data, really, really good. Avoided tackles, yards after contact, all of that we like to see. I also was encouraged that he got a ton of pass protection reps at New Mexico in 2023, was a true bell cow, and I think could step into that kind of role if need be. Now, I think it would probably take multiple injuries, like Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson, for him to fill that type of a role. But I also think if either one of those players were to get injured, he can fill either role. I think he can contribute on early downs, and he also can pass protect and run routes. The other thing I wanted to bring up as like a fun comparison to Tyrone Tracy is the start-stop ability. And so I wanted to give a shout out to a Twitter user that hooked me up with this data. This is really cool, and I hope this kind of stuff becomes more prominent, more available easily online. So this is Connor LaPlante, I think is how you say that. And so it's Zebra Sports has tracked max acceleration and deceleration in the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl. And among that group, Jacory Croskey-Merritt like blows out every single running back. So you don't have some of the best running backs in that group, but you do have a lot of really good ones, including like Tyrone Tracy, whose data in this these start-stop numbers looks really good, but Jacory Croskey-Merritt is like by far the best. And I do think that shows up on his film is just like a lot of explosive plays and a lot of true like bursts getting through those holes after he does make somebody miss. He can really do something with it. The last thing I'd bring up is I think it's just a fantastic fit here with Cliff Kingsbury and Washington, who has surprisingly like one of the highest implied projected point totals from betting markets in terms of what they're expecting from the offense. So the reason I say it's a good fit is the Commanders ran more inside zone than any team last year. It's a specific type of run scheme. They also use shotgun running far more than any team. And that aligns exactly with what Jacory Croskey-Merritt did at the collegiate level, played almost exclusively out of the gun. And 51% of all of his run attempts came on inside zone runs. Only RJ Harvey had a higher rate. And Jacory Croskey-Merritt actually averaged more yards, 7.2, on inside zone runs than Harvey, who was 6.8. Those are the top 2 running backs in that metric. So I think everything aligns really well. Of course, it's a thin bet you're placing on a late round guy, but they've been raving about him this summer, and the offense is really good, and he's completely free in drafts.
Yeah, Jacory Croskey-Merritt, a player who reminds me in some ways of Chase Edmonds, who was also a running back who Cliff Kingsbury fit well into his system and had a really nice run with the Cardinals with Kingsbury before his career fizzled out a bit with injuries. So definitely somebody to keep an eye on. And I'm going to dive into a rookie who's been shooting up draft boards actually here, though. My thought is that he could still be getting drafted too late, and that's Jaydon Blue, the rookie running back out of Texas who was drafted to the Cowboys. Blue ran behind Bijan Robinson and Jonathan Brooks his entire career at Texas, didn't get a lot of opportunities. But when he was on the field, he looked phenomenal. He ran a 4.25 and a 4.28 at his pro day. His combine numbers were not as fast. He was running through a grade 2 groin strain, but you can see the actual 4.25, 4.28 speed if you just throw on some of his tape. His touchdown run against Clemson in the college football playoff, that's the one that stands out to me the most. It's that second gear, that ability to break away. He adds a level of playmaking ability to the Cowboys backfield that, quite frankly, they don't have anywhere near or at all with Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders. He reminds me of what Rico Dowdle and Tony Pollard have been able to do at times with the Cowboys, but a more explosive breakaway runner than those two. Obviously, size is an issue that comes up a lot when talking about Jaydon Blue. Can he handle the workload? Is not something that we've seen a lot of at Texas, given the running backs he was running behind. But from a size standpoint, he is almost the exact same measurements as Bucky Irving. That's a player who made it in the NFL. And yeah, it wasn't a workhorse role last year for Bucky. I don't expect that to be for Blue. I'm not drafting Blue for that. I'm drafting Blue for explosive, big play potential, finding a really good offensive line with a really good offense. And I'm drafting him because I play in a lot of PPR and half PPR leagues. And Blue averaged 1.58 yards per route run as a receiver. That's elite in the receiving efficiency category. You could see it too. There were routes where he was lined up in the backfield, split out wide. There were routes out of the backfield where he's coming matched up against, has a two-way go against a linebacker at the second level and just torches him and creates that space that makes you kind of look at it again and be like, I've seen a few backs able to do that as a route runner through my time watching NFL. Alvin Kamara is one that comes to mind. I don't compare him to Kamara in a lot of ways. Kamara had unbelievable contact balance, the best of all time. But as far as creating that separation as a route runner, he's up there with a lot of the people that I've watched, a lot of prospects I've watched. There was a catch against Vanderbilt that I'm going to try to put to post on Twitter after this, where he was in the flat against a corner and he just made him look so stupid. So if they can get isolated routes for him, he can continue to get better as a pass protector. He was better as a pass protector than you expect, by the way, Jaydon Blue. I think there's a big role for him early on in a very good offense. So he's a player who I just continue to target and draft a lot.
I've got another note on Jaydon Blue. It's a Brian Schottenheimer stat, just a list of
let's hear
running backs who have kind of come out of nowhere to play in shoddy offenses. So it dates all the way back to 2006. Rookie round 4 pick at only 5'8", 192 pounds. Leon Washington took over lead back duties for the Jets. Fast forward to 2013, we've got Zach Stacy. I think a lot of fantasy fanatics will remember, round 5 pick. And then the next year, Trey Mason, round 3 pick, kind of cut into Stacy's workload and became the 1A in the backfield. 2018, 2019, of course, the glorious Chris Carson years in Seattle. He was a round 7 pick. Tony Pollard, round 4 pick, a little undersized. Rico Dowdle, undrafted free agent, got 250 touches. He almost matched Chris Carson's 2018 fantasy production last year. I think that really goes under the radar. But like we've had, I mean, there's a real track record. Of course, he's coached for a long time, but still to find this many guys who have kind of come out of nowhere, that caught my attention when we're looking at Dallas backfield.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about this moving forward. We're going to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. Then when we get back, we're going to talk with Adam a little bit about some of these tight ends that are on his radar as we move forward and looking for some late round value at a position that you've often been able to find late round value at.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure.
Just try to keep up.
Every face-off.
This ends now.
And every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime!
all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, Adam, let's talk a little bit about some of these tight ends who have caught your attention.
Well, unfortunately, I can't really make a case that a late round tight end is going to have an impact as a rookie, because it's still pretty rare for a tight end to have an impact as a rookie, no matter who they are. It's getting a little bit less rare, right? Kyle Pitts had a record setting at the time, rookie season. Sam Laporta was even better than him in terms of fantasy points, not in terms of yards. And then obviously we had Bowers. If we're going late round, I think you got to pay attention to Oronde Gadsden for the Chargers, 5th round pick. Yeah. They seem to like him very much, and I don't see why he can't become the starter at some point. Gunnar Helm for Tennessee, I don't know, maybe a year away, but I just look at all those guys in rounds 2 and 3, and Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson, Elijah Arroyo, and Harold Fannin. And I mean, I'm not going to talk about the first round guys, obviously, but you know, my gut tells me that one of them will probably finish somewhere around top 12, but we're really looking at streamers here. And I for year 1 for 2025, but after that, I mean, we could really be looking at this tight end class as one of the best ones in a long time. These guys are really good prospects. 6 tight ends in the top 50, 5 tight ends in the top 50 picks, and then Harold Fannin 67th. So I'm hopeful for all of them. If I have to look at one of them that I would take a shot on, it would be Elijah Arroyo just for this year. I think he's the most explosive guy. And when you talk about a guy like Jacory Croskey-Merritt and why he was the last running back picked, well, he played one game in 2024. Puka Nacua had all these injury bugs. Go back to Keenan Allen. He fell because of injury. It's guys like that where they have these doubts, not necessarily about their talent. There hasn't been a lot of Elijah Arroyo, so I'm a Miami guy. I watched all their games, and going into the draft, I said, I'm in on 2 guys and I'm out on 2 guys. I'm totally in on Cam Ward and Elijah Arroyo, and I'm out on Xavier Restrepo, who went undrafted, and Damian Martinez, who went a little bit later than I think people thought. I just didn't really see them as difference makers in the pros, but Arroyo, I loved. He just doesn't have a lot of targets. He's battled injuries. He doesn't have a lot of work on his resume. Reminds me of Greg Russo, defensive end for the Bills, who had a kind of a similar situation to Arroyo, and he's become a pretty good player. Not as great as I thought he'd be, but a pretty good player. I love Arroyo. He is so talented. If I've said this before, but it's a different show, so if you haven't heard it, if you want to get excited about Elijah Arroyo, find the video of him chasing down a Virginia Tech defensive back. I think it was Virginia Tech, after Cam Ward threw an interception. It is exactly like DK Metcalf chasing down a defensive back, but it's a freaking tight end doing it. So Arroyo is the guy that I gravitate toward. I think he's got a chance to be special if things break right for him.
He's ridiculously fast.
Yeah.
I wish we could have seen him do the testing, because I watched all his targets, and there were plays where it's just like he's running away from everyone. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Do you think he can do catch and run stuff, more horizontally oriented stuff, or is he just a vertical seam stretcher kind of player?
I think maybe you felt the same way. I think Arroyo is not the quickest. It takes him a little bit of time to get going. And with tight end, being the most explosive guy doesn't necessarily matter so much in fantasy football. It's really like who can get open, who can get targets. You don't have to do that much after the catch. If you look at guys like David Njoku and Evan Ingram and Jake Ferguson and these relevant guys, Jonnu Smith last year, super low ADOTs, just got a ton of targets. Sometimes they were good after the catch. Didn't really matter because they just racked up fantasy points. Can Arroyo do it horizontally or just break away vertically? I honestly don't know. I wish he were a little bit quicker. I wish, he were a little bit more fluid, but he's just a bigger bodied guy. Reminds me, I guess, a little bit of like Antonio Gates, just from thinking of he's not as tall, but body type and can move a little bit. I'm not going to put anything past him, Jacob, because I just think that for him, it was injuries and lack of playing time. It's the only reason he wasn't a first-round pick. But talent-wise, he really, I think, is a special player.
Yeah, he hardly got to play at all. And then even in his final season, it felt like they were like not giving it to him. He was like taking it. It was like his role just kept increasing as the year went on, because I think I heard this absurd stat from Josh Norris, and it made sense after watching the film because I don't remember him dropping any. I think he caught like 18 straight targets to begin the year for like 15 yards per target or something like that. And it was like, they finally were just like, okay, like he's a full-time player. He's kind of a feature part of the offense, but he still didn't get that many targets because it's like the offense is built around Restrepo. He's really intriguing, especially as you look at the offense he was drafted into. Like, who's the vertical threat there? They like Grant Kubiak's offense, which has been oriented around like the deep play action dropbacks and pushing the ball down the field. So it's like Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Yeah.
Maybe Gordon. I would like to talk about him a little bit at some point today. And then maybe it's him. They talked about like they saw him as like a top 15 talent if he was healthy, So I am apprehensive about projecting the role because there's not very many tight ends like this, but they might just think he's special, and they do have that need in their offense.
Yeah, he would have to be an outlier, but to me, everything his tape has proven to us is that he can be an outlier. He's somebody who moves differently for the position. And like you said, they're looking for somebody to fill that void that Metcalf left. And I don't know ultimately what the plan is for him. I just think Kubiak is definitely the coordinator who can figure out a way to use a talent like this. So I would not be surprised if this call turns out early. We're seeing him on waiver wire ads for us at tight end, and just a streamer that you can trust. We're going to talk some more rookie gems here in a moment. And then if we have time, we're going to try to get into some rookie discussions on some teams that are close to our hearts. The Chiefs for Jacob, the Giants for me, maybe some one-hitters as well. Would you rather as that rookie? There's just a lot of rookies that we want to get into. But before we do that, I do want to let you, Jacob, talk about a rookie back who you just loved on film. And this is a back who I think it's going to be difficult for fantasy managers to get on board with because he doesn't have the prototypical speed and burst and those flashy plays that you see on film. But there have been a lot of backs throughout NFL history who have made it work without those unbelievable athletic traits, and they make it work through processing, understanding space and how to manipulate it, and becoming one within the blocking scheme is how I view it. And let's see if that player can become that. And this is the player you're going to talk about next. What's his name?
It's Tahj Brooks, and yeah,
Yeah.
230 pounds. I definitely think he can be the pass protector that they need back there with Joe Burrow. I think he's phenomenal as a processor. When I watched his film, you see him processing blocks and space as he's breaking down a defense as a runner, but also as a pass protector. I was really impressed with his ability to just like keep his head on a swivel and get to spots as needed, and just plug those gaps. And so I think, like, yeah, if there is a type of running back who's going to like win over a coaching staff's heart right away, it's somebody like this who does the dirty work, who is willing to just churn out short gains and get what's there, get what's blocked, and then create a little bit extra by fighting for it. And that showed up in his analytics, in his yards after contact created. Matt Waldman does his own proprietary yards after contact created, and he said the same thing. He really liked Brooks and his ability to make lemonade, and I really think that there's a real possibility that the Cincinnati offense at some point realizes that that we need the singles and doubles guy just as much, if maybe even more, than we need the home run hitter. At the very least, like, they make a good complement together, and it's possible that he'll be able to keep the offense on track more with more consistent, successful runs than Chase Brown, who's been more of the Kenneth Walker kind of, big play threat. The other thing is Brooks was a really, really effective man gap runner, which is what Cincinnati has really leaned into recently in terms of the schematic run scheme. So I think he complements Brown well and might even work his way into a role. And it's you'd be hard pressed to find offenses that have been more fantasy friendly to the running back position. It hasn't always come to fruition, but in terms of like projected expected fantasy points based off the number of targets and everything, this offense just funnels targets to the running back position. So I think Brooks is a great one to keep an eye on, see how the playing time battle might, develop there, because they still have other guys in-house as well that they have liked in that role in the past, like Samaje Perine. But if he gets a shot, I think he will run with it.
Yeah, and Brooks is not your typical 230-pound back. Like you mentioned, Jacob, he can contribute in the passing game as well. And I just think I went back and I've been watching some Bengals tape lately. And when we were doing like kind of the quarterback breakdown, Jacob, I just wanted to focus in on those big four. And a lot of the times they would try to keep their offense balanced within these games by running Chase Brown on early downs. And it was not very successful at times. 1-2 yard gains, getting them to 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8 type situations. And then there were moments where Brown was really impressive, specifically in the passing game, or when he had some space created for him in the run game. But they do need someone who can get them into more of those 2nd and 6 type situations. That was originally the plan with Moss last year. Can Brooks be that guy early? That's the hope, and I think he could end up being someone interesting. I'm going to get into another player right now for one of my rookie gems that is in a lot of ways buried on the depth chart at this moment, but someone who I think can really emerge as early as this year, maybe not as the lead back, but as someone who you can't take off the field in a dual back situation. That's Jarquez Hunter, the rookie out of Auburn who was drafted to the Rams. There's no player I was more excited about in heading into this draft than Jarquez Hunter, who had the 4th best yard.
Well, what does that mean?
I'm sorry?
What is that? There's no player you were more excited about heading into the draft than Jarquez Hunter. Let's put that in context here. You'd like better than Genty?
Well, we're talking about relative to where they're going to be drafted, Adam. So
You
what I
heard
meant by that is
You didn't know where he was going to get drafted.
I knew he was going to be drafted on day 3 just based on how the depth of the running back class played out.
Okay.
And for me, and similar to players like Skattebo and Harvey, who I was high on, I feel like these are the types of players that if you parse it out and you can watch the tape and you look at the analytics and it matches up and this is an impressive player, you can kind of in a lot of ways throw out the draft capital. And that's not something that's ideal for every position in fantasy football. But for running back specifically, there have been a lot of hits on day 3 using day 3 capital. And I think Hunter will be the next back that does that. He had the 4th best yard per man gap run rate at 6.4 yards. which was amazing in this class, but more amazing when you consider he was drafted into a Sean McVay offense with the Rams. That's what they like to run, or at least they have in recent years when they've gotten successful in the run game. Man gap scheme. It's almost like McVay saw this as the perfect type. And you hear that throughout their kind of draft videos that have been released since the Rams, where they're like, this is the guy we need to get. And if you look, and this is courtesy of Football Insights, if you look at the college splits on inside runs inside the tackle, Jarquez Hunter versus Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, the two guys he's going to have to compete with in that backfield. He bested them both in yards per attempt by over a yard more, in yards after contact, in missed tackles forced, and doubled them in 10+ yard runs. That's really what stands out to me when I watch Hunter. It's those doubles. He hits a lot of these 10+ yard runs. 32% avoided tackle rate. That was 5th best in the class. 4.1 yards after contact per rush, top 10. 22.6, 9th best. 22.6% of his runs went for 10+ yards. I just talked about that. That was 2nd best in the class. That's what I think he offers the Rams, someone who's a perfect fit for that scheme and can do more of that. And you may say Kyren Williams already does that, but if you kind of dig a little deeper, Kyren Williams has not been that effective as a runner, despite being a good fit for that scheme, despite getting a lot of touches there. He's been more reliable than Corum. He stayed on the field. He's made plays in the passing game, specifically in the red zone, that have helped his fantasy profile. But I think Hunter can just be a better player. When I watch him, I see a player who runs with really good pad level, gets low behind his pads, kind of has a great idea of where to hit his hole and to find those little creases to get him those doubles like I talked about. And he's going to be that doubles hitter for the Rams sooner rather than later. I'm very excited about him moving forward.
You guys have really given me a lot to think about. This is a great show so far. And Croskey-Merritt, I think, is such a great call because he really doesn't have a lot of competition behind Brian Robinson. And Robinson, I mean, this is what you're looking for. Like, Robinson's not a great running back. He hardly ever makes a big play. Kyren Williams is sort of the same way. However, Kyron's really good from what I remember anyway. I'm going to look it up now. Percentage of carries for 0 or negative yards. Kyren Williams is really good, at avoiding negative plays. He had the 8th lowest rate of 0 or negative yard carries last year. Number 1 was Devin Singletary, by the way. And I think he was even better than that in 2023. So Kyren doesn't make a lot. Yeah, he was 4th best. That's his best attribute, but he's not a home run hitter, and neither is Brian Robinson. Kyron's got fumble issues. So I think these are really interesting calls. If I just could throw one more name in here that
let's do it.
Compares most similarly to Tyrone Tracy to me. I don't think he has the same path, though. That's the problem. Is Brashard Smith going to Kansas City? It's the obvious connection here. He was a wide receiver converted to a running back. And I'm just real quick on him. I mean, the difference is he played a full season at over 200 carries. So that's more than Tracy, a lot more than Antonio Gibson. And he was pretty good, but he's small. But Smith is someone that people are interested in. I think, any 7th round pick, it's so unlikely that they're going to contribute, at least right away. It's pretty unlikely they're going to contribute at all. But this was the best running back class in a really long time. So guys who were 7th round picks this year, may have been 5th round picks in previous years, something like that.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, I think he would have been around 4 or 5 pick last year. I mean, he was in that range with some of the guys who went there this year, but there were just so many running backs that fell. I think it really is a draft class specific thing. I'm really intrigued with both him and Jalen Royals. I want to talk about the Chiefs. I think we just do it now and then we go to our ad break.
Okay, let's throw some Chiefs out there and we'll go to the break and get a couple more rookie gems in.
Smith, I almost put Smith as one of my guys here, and we only get 3. So, I'm very, very high on him. I'm glad that Adam brought him up. The other thing I want to bring up with the Chiefs is that Josh Simmons, the left tackle they took 31st overall. Yeah. No, actually, no, they traded back one spot, 32nd. He's getting Trent Williams comps. Jason Kelsey compared him to Trent Williams, and all of the George Karlaftis, all the Trey Smith, all the Chiefs veterans are you don't want to compare anyone to Trent, but he does some of the stuff that only Trent does athletically. And so he's way ahead of schedule with his health. And everyone is just saying he looks phenomenal, better than they could have even imagined. And so it's all of a sudden the Chiefs might have a real insertion of talent here that was much needed in this offense with, of course, the guys that we know are coming back healthy too. But this rookie class, I'm all of a sudden getting really, really excited about. And I don't know if this is just, I'm a Chiefs fan. I live in Kansas City, so I get the hype more, loudly. But if Josh Simmons comes in and is a difference maker at left tackle, is a hit at left tackle, the only reason he wasn't a top 10 pick was injury, right?
Injury and a lack of so I watched all of his
Recently.
tape. He had unbelievable tape, the best in the class I thought by a considerable margin, but it all came against non-power fives, and then he got injured, so we never really got to see it against the Big Ten.
Interesting. And then Royals, I just wanted to bring up as a rare injury contingent upside play at receiver. When we talk about injury contingency, it's almost always running backs, because if a receiver gets hurt, it's not a 1-for-1 transition most of the time in terms of the guy that takes the role. Also, what's the highest target share that any receiver is going to get? Like 35%, 30%. A running back can come in and get like 70% of the whole backfield share, you know?
Yeah.
So it's pretty rare that a receiver matters in the same way where they truly benefit in a huge like 1-for-1 way if a receiver gets hurt. But I do think if Rashee Rice were to miss time, Jalen Royals was drafted specifically to fill that role. I think they didn't really like when they had to put Worthy into that role last year, and it helps more to have him to space the field like we saw down the stretch for them. He started doing more of that. And I think that this is what Jalen Royals is best at, is like kind of catch and run. He's a really physical athlete. And I'm not convinced that they want to re-sign Rice. And so I think like that makes so much sense that's why Royals was the pick.
I like that call.
Why do you say that about Rashee Rice?
I mean, I think there's a number of reasons, and I think mainly like the pick kind of signals it. Like he was the closest comparison for Rice among the people in this draft class, in my opinion, of like somebody who was a bit miscast on his deep ball stuff and forced to do that. But like when he got the ball in his hands, he was really powerful. And so, yeah, I mean, this is just speculation. Of course, I don't know anything. But
you know, he had 55 catches and only 9 of them, Jalen Royals, only 9 of them were between the hashes.
Right.
Wow.
So, and also, I'm sorry, I cut you off, but I just want to point that out because you're comparing him to Rashee Rice, and a lot of his stuff was one of those offenses where they line up guys basically in the stands.
Well, that was the point. You're saying, you know, that was the same, similar for Rice at the college level.
Right.
Yeah. No, his film was frustrating to watch because it's like so zoomed out.
Yep.
He's just like all over the side. He can't even really see.
It's like same thing with SMU. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of the vibes I've been getting. Like I do keep up with the Chiefs a lot, and I think that's kind of the role that he's going to play. And I just wanted to mention that to people because it would be a huge role if he stepped in, you know.
I like the call just because
think about Juju Smith-Schuster. We were like clamoring to get Juju last year for fantasy.
At one point, yeah.
But they got a deep receiving core now, except they don't have a tight end. They need a tight end.
To me, I just can't stop. They need a tight end.
Yeah. They do.
I might be buying back
Tyler Warren. I was going to draft Tyler Warren over Travis Kelce. Kelce went 1 or 2 picks before I took Warren. I want nothing. Sorry, different topic. Nothing to do with Travis Kelce this year.
I might be convinced by him losing 20 pounds if that's real, and it looks like he actually lost that weight.
You lost 20 pounds. It doesn't mean that everybody's like, you know, going to be
he
better.
Claims he was disappointed in the season. He lost weight. I don't think it takes much for Travis Kelce to be fantasy relevant again because he has the rapport already down with Patrick Mahomes. So I literally just think it takes him being focused on being good again. We'll see if I'm wrong about that, but I probably will end up overweight on Kelce again somehow with his like 8. What did he go? Round 10 in our
Funny word choice.
Yeah, exactly. It is interesting though to highlight all these rookies for the Chiefs because we know, or at least we think, they're rookies drafted into one of these high-power elite offenses, but that's not what the offense has been the last 2 years. And so I just want to keep that in mind. When I watch the Chiefs, I see a team that is wildly, wildly conservative from an offensive coaching standpoint. Take a lot of field goals in 4th and short situations, and they run the ball a lot and control the clock because their defense is dominant. Reed does it. He wins games. He gets them to the playoffs. I just don't know if this is that same offense, but I do love the point about Rashee Rice because I think you're very likely to be right on that, Jacob. I don't think Rice is in their future plans. They don't have the salary cap space for him, including the off-field stuff. So that role will be somebody else's at some point, especially with Kelce likely nearing retirement. Could that be Royals? That's interesting to me. The receiver that I end up drafting a lot late, and we could get into a break after this, because I just think he's totally slept on, is Marquise Brown. Hollywood Brown is still on the Chiefs roster, and he has a chance to be really good, I think, this year. And nobody's talking about him. Nobody's drafting him. So that's like a future conversation. No one's talking Marquise Brown in middle of July. We don't need to bring that name up anymore on this show.
Yeah, there's a reason for
very late. What'd you say?
There's a reason no one's talking about
There's a reason no one's talking about it, but I may be alone on that island. But without
Justin Watson, I'm sorry. I got us way up top with the Chiefs stuff here.
You did. Justin Watson's that guy, though. Not really, though. But anyway, let's take a quick break. Your word from our sponsors, and then get right back into some rookie gems.
What's he like? The happy-faced killer?
You mean my dad? Be glad you never have to know.
You think that you're so much better than me. You're just like your old man.
I am not like you at all.
Aaron, I asked you nicely to stop playing that happy face trailer. Very scary for me, disruptive of my flow. We're gonna have to work on that. We'll talk about that.
You're such a wimp. You don't like scary stuff?
I'm not a scary movie fan. I'll admit it. And I don't really understand why anyone likes scary movies. I don't really get it. Like, okay, some scary movies I like trying to think of is Sixth Sense considered a scary movie? Like, I like that. Like,
Yeah.
it's like a thinking movie.
You should watch The Exorcist.
I've seen The Exorcist. Any movie that's like jump scary or
No,
gory.
it's not really that. They didn't do like a lot of jump scary stuff.
Oh, is Exorcist where the TV screen she sees the girl?
Oh, that's Poltergeist.
That's Poltergeist. I've seen that.
Exorcist, I want to say won or was nominated for Best Picture. It's one of the OGs of horror movies. It's a pretty old movie, but it's a great movie. And you should also watch a movie called Sinister. That will scare the crap out of you. That's one of the best.
The crap. That's the whole point, though. Like, I don't want to have the crap scared out of me. Like, I don't know why anyone does.
What genre of movie can affect you as much as a horror movie? Right?
Like,
That's
drama can do it. Drama can do it.
Not the same. I mean, you are just so emotionally affected by it.
I watched Requiem for a Dream and was depressed for like
movie.
48 hours straight after that.
That's
another movie I never want to watch again. I don't like that. I don't want to leave movies feeling like that. But let's get back to talking about rookies here, some rookie gems. Because if Adam and me are on the show, and Matt and I are on the show, we can just reel off 25 minutes of nonsense. So let's try to focus this back in here. And I want to kick it to you, Jacob, with a player that we both love the tape of. And I will say, and I'll see if you disagree with me on, I like this rookie wide receiver's tape more than the rookie who was drafted ahead of him from the same college team to the same NFL team. How about that?
Say it. Yeah, this is the hipster show. We're doing our thing. Yeah, Jaylin Noel better than Jaden Higgins. That's what reception perception data will tell us as well. So yeah, all the hipsters are here. This is the special time of year where I don't quite know how to say people's names because I only watch your all 22.
Same.
It's Noel, I believe. I've heard Noel many times.
Yeah, it's Noel.
Okay, sure. I really like this guy, and as I went back and rewatched CJ Stroud film, I just felt so much like this is going to be a great connection between these two. So if we're right, and if CJ feels the same way, I could see him having a better year than Higgins. If Iowa State and now the Houston Texans, so two straight organizations, are right, then Higgins is probably the guy you want because he's been the wide receiver one in both spots. But Noel was also really productive, a phenomenal athlete. Just electric as a mover, not quite as like electric side to side as Josh Downs, but Matt Harmon did compare him to Josh Downs in his ability to do really impressive contested catch stuff for somebody at his size. And I think he's going to win a lot on the vertical plane in the same way that Tank Dell did. So it won't be the exact same offense. Bobby Slowick, the former offensive coordinator, is gone. But we do have another, McShanahan kind of coordinator coming in here. And I think we're probably going to see a lot of deep play action looks for Noel. And so I'm looking for guys who can benefit from Nico Collins just scaring the crap out of defense. And I think it could be either one of these rookies. So I'm going to go ahead and flag plant Noel because I really liked his film.
My only issue is Christian Kirk. I mean, I like Christian Kirk a lot. He's a guy that I draft a lot after pick 100. And Noel is a slot receiver. So I have a hard time seeing him making an impact this year.
I mean, maybe they traded a round 7 pick for him. And I've watched Christian Kirk and I've watched Noel, and I think he's got more juice in him. I think Kirk is like a comparison for Noel, but Noel is better versus press and more like physical than him.
Well, at the college, don't know that though. We don't know. Right. Like comparing a guy's junior year of college to a veteran receiver, I could see why you'd say that, but
it's the test too. Yeah.
No, I mean, he's exciting. I like Higgins a lot, though. I mean, Higgins is one of these non-flashy, good route, knows how to get open, trust 3rd and 7, kind of looking his way, reliable guys. I did not come away thinking Jaylin Noel was better than Higgins, but I guess you guys did. Both of you did.
I don't want to say better than Higgins for me. I want to say they're totally different prospects. I want to say I liked his film more. I just thought for the player that with receivers, I'm not going to say I'm biased, but I do have a type that I look for that translates to the NFL. I want the players, the neighbors types, the guys who can get in and out of their breaks, the guys who are less so size based freaks, like I think Higgins in a lot of ways is. Now, that doesn't mean Higgins can't evolve into a great route runner. Nico Collins is a great example of somebody who had that size and speed combination, was never really put it on display at Michigan because his quarterback play was so bad. Went to the Senior Bowl and looked dominant and flashed to a lot of NFL execs. Like, this is what it could become if this guy realizes the potential. I think Higgins has more upside than Noel, but I think Noel is someone who could potentially fill, and this is what I'm really looking for, that role that we just saw in that in Houston that Jacob kind of touched on a little bit earlier, that Tank Dell in a lot of ways operated out of. Is it going to be Kirk? Is it going to be Noel? I think Noel is the better player as well, though. Again, I think it's important that you noted, Adam, this is against college competition, so we have to keep that in context.
He'll be on the short list of players that I'm watching very closely during the preseason, because if he comes in and it's like Ladd McConkey last year, where he looks like just a different type of mover, I think you've got to be aggressive in getting him at the end of drafts. And I really think that there's a possibility that he comes in and it's just like, okay, yeah, this guy is just an overwhelming athlete, and he has a good feel for zone and space. Like, I think his game is less likely to fail than like any of the receivers drafted around him. I was really surprised that he fell to where he did.
Yeah, just a quick aside here. We're doing our wide receiver week last week, and just trying to kind of sort out how to rank T. Higgins, Ladd McConkey, JSN, Tyreek Hill. Watching the Ladd McConkey tape and watching him get in and out of breaks and run routes, and he's on another level.
He is.
And that just really solidified how great I think he's going to be, and why I'm comfortable taking him near the end of the second round.
I'm with you on that. The only thing that scares me is his injury history throughout Georgia, but you could see it on his tape. He was just in college. He was a different level mover, especially on those outbreaking routes. And it's like, that is the area where Herbert can really take most advantage of his arm talent, his physical tools, and his anticipation, which he's great at. It's the outbreaking routes where you can't really defend him. So I'm with you, Adam. I think we could be looking at McConkey maintaining a really high yards per catch while also getting a lot more targets this year and being a fantasy league winner. But before further ado, and we talk a little bit about some other situations here, rookie situations, I want to talk about a deep dive rookie here that Jacob was surprised I even added to the list of my rookie gems. And I'm sure you might be as well, Adam. But I'm going to talk about him anyway because I just have a gut feel from watching his film. That's Savion Williams, the wide receiver drafted the Packers. Not the first receiver they drafted, but the wide receiver they drafted second. And when it comes to Savion Williams, I think what you're betting on with Williams is the overall talent. So we talked a little bit about Nico Collins and what he was able to do at the college level versus the NFL level earlier. He became a different player. I think Williams can become that player as well. 6'3", 222 with 4.49 speed. If you watch him, he forced 40 missed tackles on 111 touches last season. That was the next best. He led all wide receivers in forced missed tackles. The next best was 32. He took snaps at quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. I think he's kind of being billed as this like Cordarrelle Patterson type of receiver. But the reason I like him so much is when I watched his route running, I was like, there are flashes and moments of him routing up these DBs, like creating separation with double moves, specifically in the red zone in that kind of 20 in area of the field. Double moves, the ability to stop and start. And then I watch him attack the football in the air, how strong he is at the catch point. I'm like, I kind of feel like they just didn't utilize what he's best at. He had a 73.5% career contested catch rate, just phenomenal at 6'4", 220. 11 catches for 164 yards against Texas. If you go back and watch that game film, that was, to me, a flash of what he can become at the NFL level. Used getting in and out of breaks as like a traditional receiver, in breaking routes, on the outbreaking routes. I do believe that he has the physical tools to develop as a full-time wide receiver, not this wildcat gimmick wide receiver that he's kind of being billed as. Will it happen right away? I'm not sure, but sometimes talent just shows up. When you're 6'4", you run this fast and you're that explosive. Like, watch every touch. I talked about all those forced missed tackles last year, 41. Watch all of those and just watch how explosive he is after he gets the ball in his hands. He's a different level athlete than anyone on that Packers roster, including Matthew Golden. I just think that talent wins, and he's a player who I believe in long-term. I would not be surprised if it happens sooner than later, too. That Packers wide receiver core seems to just be a revolving door of different players getting different roles within the offense, and Matt LaFleur is the type of coach I think can utilize this talent.
There were some really weird picks at receiver this year. He was around 3 pick, right?
Yes.
And like Isaac Tesla was around 3 pick. Dante Thornton for the Raiders was around 4 pick and feels huge need there with the deep ball. Like, I think there are some guys worth monitoring this preseason that people have just like completely forgotten about since the draft. Pat Bryant, Denver Broncos round 3 pick.
Yep.
I'm really, really curious to see how these players like acclimate and potentially can carve out a role in year 1, because it's not, I mean, a lot of the guys we're excited about here are around 6 or 7 picks or whatever, but it's like that's real draft capital put into these guys when there were other players on the board that we also like Elika Yamanor,
Right.
Torrey Horton fell. Both those guys, maybe it was due to health reasons, but teams decided to, to trade draft capital to get Isaac Tesla. There's a group of like 3 or 4 receivers that went round 3 and 4, like Ty Felton and then Jordan Watkins and just a bunch of guys that were like super, super fast. And I'm just like really curious what they're going to look like on an NFL field, because I had them nowhere near my radar, but then all of a sudden they're around 3 and 4 picks, which often those profiles don't work out, but we've just got a bunch of really intriguing players to monitor this preseason. If you can't tell, I'm very excited.
Well, I'm not from I'm not from a 12 team, 14, 15 round, 6 person bench fantasy league. Elika Yamanor, I just want to say, was probably my least favorite wide receiver that I watched in the process. I didn't watch as many as you guys. Like, I didn't watch a lot of the day 3 guys, but I did watch him. And what was my stat on him? He had 6 catches between the hash marks all year long, among the lowest in the country. Tedero, because they're both like tall outside receivers, right? Tedero McMillan had 32 catches between the hashes. Yamanor had 6. To me, is like a one-trick pony who drops the ball a lot. But I don't think any of the wide receivers drafted in round 3 or later are going to be. What's the best way to put it? I just don't think they're going to matter. Maybe a few will for a month, but we're never going to have a Puka again. He's probably the best draft pick like in NFL history. He's one of them. Antonio Brown, Puka Nacua. We'll have one again, but we will rarely have a Puka again. Who was it last year? I mean, there was really nobody.
From the wide receiver.
Late. Are you talking about receivers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Running backs, different story.
Yeah.
Receivers drafted after round 2, really, you're struggling to find guys that make big impacts as rookies. So I'm just going to bet on history here, especially in a class that was bad by wide receiver standards. Kyle Williams, so he was Kyle Williams was the first wide receiver taken in the 3rd round. You can see a path there. But I don't know, man. I don't see consistency from any of these guys.
I have no idea if there will be any consistency or if they'll get on the field, but my bet would be Isaac Tesla. If any of these guys, I don't know if you got to watch him, but like
but doesn't he need an injury? How does he make mark? Yeah,
probably. I don't know if it'll matter this year. But if there were an injury, I'm intrigued. And also like they gave up so much that I'm intrigued because they're in win now mode. That guy's insane as a mover. He legitimately looks like Ladd McConkey if he were like 6'5".
He's on the Lions for those of you who don't know. Big slot, Isaac Tesla.
Well, I guess he completely dominated a small school, and then he went to Arkansas, and they already had like this offense established that ran through Andrew Armstrong on the perimeter, so they stuck him in the slot, and they never threw him the ball. But like anytime they did throw him the ball, it's like, okay, that looks like an NFL player for sure. Like,
yeah.
And then Detroit trades away a round 3 pick to go up and get him in round 3. And it's like, what is going on here?
Is that a lot though? Like to give up a round 3 pick to get a round 3 pick?
I'm pretty sure they moved from round 4 to round 3, and they gave up a future round 3 pick.
Oh, they gave up a 4 and a 3 to get it. Okay, I gotcha.
To take him like wildly high, like much higher than anyone was projecting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That would be my bet. It's just like I'm really curious what he's going to look like this preseason. Pat Bryant, I'm really, really curious about because Sean Payton has been raving about him. And I really liked his film, but it's like he's just a big X receiver. He kind of reminds me of Sutton, but Sean Payton's been acting like he can do more, and I'm curious, can he do more than the X receiver stuff? Because he's comparing to Michael Thomas and stuff like that. So I want to see what kind of routes they'll be having him run this preseason. Do you guys want to talk about Cam Skattebo and get Adam out of here, and then maybe me and Dan can wrap up the rest of it?
Yeah, let's talk about Skattebo. Let's dive into some Scat.
You've totally shifted. You before, like right after the draft, you're like Cam Skattebo, RJ Harvey. These are the guys. These are breakouts. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I think so. That's basically where I'm at too. And then over the last month, all I ever see on Twitter is Dan posting Tyrone Tracy hype. And you pick him today. It was super predictable. You like reached for him. I was like, I know this is going to be Tyrone Tracy right here. So are we out on Skattebo? Do you think it's going to be a mix? Where are we at with this?
We're not out on Skattebo. I want to make that clear. I think Skattebo is a really good chance to be the red zone back for the Giants this year. But, and again, I said before the draft and after the draft, Skattebo and Harvey were the two backs I thought were the best before they were drafted to their teams, just from watching the tape. But I think when I went back and actually took the time to watch every Tyrone Tracy snap, I realized how good he actually was last season. I don't know if the numbers back it up, if they do or they don't.
They don't.
And they don't.
I've been shocked at how bad. So you brought up the Devin Singletary stat.
Yeah.
Just side by side, Singletary clearly looks better than him last year, which is not what like eye test would tell you. I know he played banged up a little bit. Tracy did.
Yeah,
I wouldn't. Singletary has always had pretty good metrics.
He has, yeah.
And he's a solid player.
He's a very underrated back, but I'm not sure what his role will be in the offense. But as I watched Tracy, I just felt like there was so much more meat left on the bone that the Giants weren't able to operate. And then I heard some of the offseason content with the Giants, and they were all kind of talking about how, like, look, he was talking about how Russell Wilson's getting more involved in the red zone drills and as a receiver. And they were talking about some of the runs, the duo runs that really worked for Tracy last year, and how they want to lean into that as a football team. I think that a lot of what I've heard is discussion around Tracy being that back this year. So some of it is that. And Skattebo as a rookie obviously will come in needing to get a lot better, a lot faster at pass protection. Because while I loved everything about Skattebo's profile, it was not, the pass protection was not not an area that I loved. It was really, really tough to watch. Now, some people say, okay, look, it's just he doesn't know what he's doing. He's throwing his body into defenders. That can be fixed with the right running back coach. And I'm sure the Giants will be working on that, but I'm not sure it's a snap your fingers and fix and leave him in on passing downs for year one type of situation. So if I'm getting Tracy on the passing downs and I'm getting Tracy on most of the early downs, I just feel like he's a really talented runner, Tracy. And that's just somebody that I want to get, that I think I can lean on for this season. That doesn't mean I'm not drafting Skattebo, by the way, Jacob. I just think I'm more likely now to bet on Skattebo being the 2 rather than the 1B to the 1A.
Yeah. I also feel like the offense was so much worse when Andrew Thomas was out, which is a lot of the Tracy snaps, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you look at Neighbors. I think he only played 4 games with Andrew Thomas. Was that it, Dan? The first 4 games,
yes.
Neighbors missed 2, and then Thomas got hurt. I mean, Neighbors. I'm skipping the Giants running backs as of now. I don't draft them. I think the Giants are going to be pretty bad again. I think Russell Wilson's at best average, probably below average. And if they start losing, I think they go to Jackson Dart and turn it to the future. They have the toughest schedule in the NFL, which is not good for a running back on a bad team because it's not going to be good game scripts. And now, unless you're talking about Tracy, maybe he can catch a lot of passes. But so like Tracy starts going around Javonte Williams, Brian Thomas, Brian Robinson. Got 3 NFC East running backs there. And it's a really interesting range. This is arguably your last chance to get a starting NFL running back on your fantasy roster. And it's happening usually after pick 90. It's not bad value, but I do think there's a split, a 2-way split for the Giants, maybe a 3-way split. I don't think those guys are good enough to break out of it necessarily. Until I hear more, see more in training camp or in preseason, I'm avoiding this backfield.
Yeah,
I understand that.
I just looked up next gen stats, rushing yards over expectation, which I don't think is perfect, but it does attempt to offer like some representation of what the running back's doing on his own, and take into account the offensive line play and everything. And they did have Tracy significantly better than Singletary. In the same range as like Kenneth Walker, Jalen Warren, Alvin Kamara, David Montgomery, some pretty good running backs.
The Saquon Barkley season last year has just made me question everything I know about running backs. He was so much better. He got a huge upgrade and had one of the greatest seasons in NFL history because he really wasn't that. He was so overrated after his rookie year. If you look at Saquon Barkley's career with the Giants after his rookie year, completely overrated running back, overrated for fantasy, overrated. And then you always just kind of felt like he's so much better than this, right? Like we know he's better than this. and he finally got a chance to show it. So
Just look at his yards before contact with the Giants and his yards before contact with the Eagles. It really tells the entire story. And it really, I think for us as fantasy managers, tells a story of what you need to be looking at deeply when it comes to predicting your backs in fantasy football. Make sure that you understand the value of an offensive line that can create yards before contact. The Lions, the Eagles, some of these teams. It makes these running backs foolproof and just injury proof from being unbelievable contributors in your offense versus the Giants situation, which has improved, I think, since Barkley left on the offensive line, but still not quite where we want it to be.
If you want me to leave you with some research I did last night, actually.
Yeah, let's drop some Aizer stats. This Aizer stats or is this research?
No, this is research. Now, evaluating offensive lines is not easy. So I just looked at the PFF rushing grades, PFF run blocking grades over the last 5 years. So I looked at the top 12 finishers at half PPR leagues at running back and where their offensive lines ranked. Basically, you can be a great fantasy running back with a bad offensive line if you catch a lot of passes. That's pretty basic, right? I mean, that makes sense. Yep. There were some running backs who were on teams that graded with terrible offensive lines or terrible run blocking and were top 12. Josh Jacobs in 2020 was RB12. James Conner in 2021 was RB6 with 18 touchdowns that year. Saquon Barkley in 2023 was RB8 with 41 catches, and he had a terrible offensive line. But really, you do see a lot of really good offensive lines producing good running backs. So I think if you have a running back on a team that has a bad offensive line, you probably want 40 catches to feel like this guy could finish top 12. It got me thinking about that with Joe Mixon. I do think Joe Mixon's going to have 40 or more catches to be a top 12 running back, which he is on a per game basis 6 of the last 7 years. And I have to go.
All right.
Thank you guys for having me. And in all seriousness, you really opened my eyes to some very interesting rookies. I hope it feels that way for the audience as well.
Thank you, Adam. I really appreciate you taking the time to help us get this going. Obviously, you were the originator, the idea of why we're here today. And for those listening,
I think Jacob came up with Beyond the Box Score.
Was it?
Was it me?
So I always thought it was you, but it might have been Jacob.
It may have been me. I can't remember if I came up with the FFT Open idea.
Oh, now you want credit for everything?
I
Oh my God. Get off the show. Get off the show.
All right.
We've had enough of you. We've had enough here. That's it for Adam today. Thank you for joining us. For those listening in, remember, this is Beyond the Box Score. I'm Dan Schneier. That's Jacob Gibbs. We're coming to you a lot from this point on. We're going to be doing this type of content, diving into rookie gems, later players. So please help us grow the show. We asked this a lot last year. We had a lot of success with it. I know it's early in July. Things are about to get way more intense for fantasy, and we expect that to happen with you as well. But please hit the like button and try to do your part in helping us spread this show by just all you have to do is hover your hand over the mouse and click the like button one time an episode. That's all we'll ever ask. And if you can, download these episodes as well on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you get them from. Please just do us a favor, write a comment in the section on this YouTube page. It's all we're ever going to ask. There's like 3 things. They're all free. They should take 15 seconds of your time, and they really help us more than you'd ever know. So thank you so much, Jacob. Let's wrap this show up, though, with a little fun game here. I'm going to give you some quick hitters on potential rookies and how on a 1 to 10 scale you feel about them being rookie gems. So how rookie gemmy are there? 10 being they have a chance to be there, or they're gonna be a rookie gem. 1 being they have no chance. And I'll start you off with Bears running back Kyle Monangai.
Yeah, so we'll say 10 is Jacory Croskey-Merritt.
Okay.
Led the show off with him. That's where we're at. I'm gonna say Monangai is like a 7 or something. Like he was very close. I really, really liked the way that he runs. There's a lot of creativity and just like fight. It wouldn't surprise me if he ends up being the guy that matters, because Roschon Johnson has disappointed to this point, has underwhelmed, I would say. He's been kind of a plodder. Roschon has done pretty well in short yardage situations. So especially around the goal line last year, people kind of compare him to like David Montgomery or Jamal Williams in that backfield. Maybe, but I think there's a chance that Monangai just emerges here. And so he's somebody to keep an eye on, because the Bears offense could be really good under Ben Johnson, of course. How do you feel about him?
Monangai's a 9 for me. He was, yeah. So there was Skattebo, there was Harvey when it comes to pre-draft film that I just loved and thought these guys are going to be much better than where they're projected to be drafted. Obviously, Harvey was drafted earlier than expected. Monangai was next on that list for me, number 3.
Pass protector too.
Yes, pass protector. He carried that offense at Rutgers, and he did so despite them having absolutely no vertical passing game. By no vertical passing game, I mean that quarterback couldn't throw the ball more than 5 to 7 air yards, and that takes a toll on Monangai and any running back in a system like that. And yet he still contributed and still produced. The yards after contact was excellent. Really low runs with really low pad level. Monangai is a player who wouldn't surprise me if he's fantasy relevant despite being a late round pick. Let's get into the next one. Son of a future NFL or a former NFL player, I should say, Oronde Gadsden. We talked a little bit on him earlier.
Yeah, I really liked his film. I'm going to give him like a 5 or a 6 for this year. I just think it would be pretty unlikely if he's like ready to contribute right away. But maybe they just throw him out there as like a big receiver, and he can help them. You know, I mean, it wouldn't take much to be better than the receivers that they've had out there to this point. So he's somebody I've drafted a lot in tight end premium leagues because you can get him cheap. But I think it's probably more of a long-term play if I had to guess.
We'll go 3 for me. I think Gadsden will be the guy that we're so desperate. You know how we always are so desperate at tight end throughout a fantasy season that like we'll look to the waiver wire and we'll be like, oh no, this guy scored a touchdown in 3 straight weeks. He might be that guy that has like 1 or 2 or 3 catches and a touchdown. He starts to become this red zone threat that they can scheme for in the red zone. And we may end up kind of thinking to add him just because we're desperate at the position, going for touchdown only type players like he might end up being. I just don't know if there's an actual role for him. And that goes for a lot of these tight ends. Let's get into another one, a really deep sleeper in my book, at least. Probably not going to be as high on as you are. It's Keandre Lambert-Smith. Are you higher on him than I am?
I love this guy. I think if it's like who's going to be more likely to get up there for receiver reps, it's him over Gadsden. I think he's really good, like off the line, and a good route runner. I'm really intrigued to watch him in the preseason because he really just had one breakout year. He was at Penn State and then he transferred last year to Auburn and crushed it. But it's like one of those where he's significantly older than all the competition he's playing against there. So let's see how it translates to the pros. But I think he has a really well-rounded route tree and can win at the catch point too. I did want to bring up on Gadsden. If he gets on the field as a tight end, I do think he could have success. Like this offense really features the tight end position, even when it's been Will Dissly and Stone Smart or whatever. Like, so they brought in Tyler Conklin. Like, I think they want something here, and I think he's the one who has the most juice. So I've got my eye on Gadsden and Keandre Lambert-Smith too. I'll give KLS like a 4.
All right. I'll probably go 2 there. What about Dante Thornton? You mentioned him earlier as a player who was drafted earlier than we anticipated. Bit of that like size speed freak type of profile. Is he someone who could surprise people already?
More than a bit. This guy's 6'5", ran a 4.3 flat. Oof. Now he gets to go play with Geno Smith. He didn't play much receiver. He didn't get on the field much. He wasn't a full-time player, but all of his per opportunity data was really, really good. And this offense needs somebody to stretch the field, and they invested in him. So I'm very intrigued to see how much he's going to play. And if he's a full-time player right off the bat, which I don't think he will be, but if he is, then this is someone to keep an eye on because he could definitely make good plays in this offense. And defenses are going to be so concerned with Bowers and Jinty, I think he'll get tons of one-on-one looks.
He will, and they have other player. I forget his name. Who's the kid they draft from Cincinnati? Trey Tucker, maybe. Yeah, he's also kind of one of those players who I think can get those one-on-one looks and maybe might have the edge over Thornton to start at least. But I'm with you. When a player like that, who's a size speed freak, does start to make plays and get reps, those are the types of players that should be on our radar immediately because those are the guys that have the difference-making upside to actually be fantasy relevant for a long period of time. So I'm with you on that. Another player I think is kind of fitting into that profile, didn't play, had some issues with playing, just staying healthy, is Torrey Horton. He's a player who I know you liked his tape a lot of. Or liked a lot of his tapes.
I did. I liked Torrey Horton a lot. I think if he would have been healthy last year, he probably would have been like a round 3 pick or something because he was absolutely crushing last year before he got hurt. So he falls to round 5, but now he's on a Seattle team that needs this type of a player, needs some extra playmaking. And everything sounds really good. He's out there at OTAs and he's opening, people's eyes, and people are starting to get kind of a steady drumbeat coming out about Horton. So I'm pretty excited. I think it'll probably be MVS to start this season as that field stretcher. But if Horton could get on the field, I think he could make some plays.
Yeah, you mentioned they are really looking for somebody to fill that void after losing DK Metcalf. Was it going to be Royo? Is it going to be MVS? I think you're right. Horton could be a surprise to fill that role. What will that role be for a fantasy standpoint? If he does, it could end up being kind of like a Marvin Mims type situation where it's just some explosive plays here and there, but not a lot of.
Be
go
like
ahead.
Rashid Shaheed, basically. I think
Okay.
he's the similar kind of player. He's nasty off the line, man. He's got a
Yeah,
really fun
he
release
is.
package, and he's really like surprisingly bursty for a smaller guy. Like he's a really good athlete.
Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure. And I think that when you watched him, he's one of those players that always, when you watch his tape, you're like, this guy has the tools. It's just a matter of, can we get him in a consistent role? Maybe the Seahawks will find that kind of consistent role for him. We'll find out. These are late rookie potential stashes and gems. Let's close out the show here, though, Jacob, with a would you rather from a stash standpoint. We're going to go even deeper dive and see if you have any plant flags on any of these types of players. I keep messing that up. Because I have one player who stands out of these four. Would you rather stash DJ Giddens, running back rookie who got drafted to the Colts, Devin Neal, Woody Marks, or Jordan James?
I'm gonna go with Giddens. I'm intrigued by all of them. I'm gonna go with Giddens. What do you think?
So for me, the clear-cut pick is Jordan James. And Jordan
Ooh.
James, yeah, I know. And I knew you'd say ooh, because Jordan James is not a player who's been hyped at all, really, throughout this process, pre-draft and post-draft. But when I watched the tape of these backs, I felt like so here's who he reminded me a lot of, a player who you like a lot. I'm curious if you saw any of the similarities. Tahj Brooks. He reminded me in a lot of ways of Tahj Brooks in his ability to kind of process the space and understand where the blocking is and make those cutbacks and those cuts that could create space and yardage. And I look at his profile and I'm like, this is a very different back than a lot of the backs Kyle Shanahan has tried to draft over the last few years. What does that say to me? What does that signal to me? It signals to me that maybe Shanahan has been looking through the tape, preparing for next season and being like, I need something else from a running back standpoint in my running back room, something that Elijah Mitchell never gave me and some of these other players he's put through that scheme. And so I wonder if that's what he saw in James. I just think overall, he was like the most consistent of any of the backs we just mentioned of those four and any of the backs selected late when it comes to down basis. So I just am curious if he can play a big role in the NFL.
I think the easy comparison is Jordan Mason. That's actually who I thought
Yeah,
when I watched
faster
him.
than Mason, I thought.
Yeah. And then Mason's like kind of in between him and Tahj Brooks. And so he reminded me of Jordan Mason in the way that he ran. He ran with a lot of conviction. And then he goes to San Fran. And I think it's, there could be something there that Kyle Shanahan really did like how Mason ran for them last year and kept the offense on track. And that was a little bit different than kind of some of the running backs they've had where it's just outside zone, trying to get the big plays. And then Mason got banged up. And so it kind of fell off. Like obviously there were injuries as well that affected the offensive line. But it was working well at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with Jordan James. Those are sorry, go ahead. And what about Giddens? What has you excited about him?
I was just saying I like that call on Jordan James because truly nobody does talk about him.
Nobody's talking James.
Don't sleep on Corey Kiner though.
I know. There are a lot of backs always.
Yeah, Corey Kiner was a UDFA for San Fran, by the way. You'll probably see me tweeting about him during the preseason.
All right.
DJ Giddens, it's just that Jonathan Taylor has consistently missed time. And if he does, I think Giddens can step in and play all three downs right away. And I also think he's somebody where, like, if he gets in and he starts ripping off big plays, like he's somebody that people are going to get really, really excited about. When he like is operating at his highest potential, like he looks really good.
I was going to say the word that comes to my mind. Can you think of the one word that came to my mind when watching DJ Giddens tape?
He's exciting. I don't know.
Glide was the word.
Yeah, he definitely does. Yeah,
he's got some
does
glide.
Almost full speed cuts in the open field where it's just like, what do you do against
it's crazy? That? And it worked. So he's definitely something. I was surprised at how late he got drafted. Some of these backs really surprised me. He was the number one.
I think we gotta throw out the draft capital results for this year's running back class, especially as it pertains to like comparing it to last year's class. Like Blake Corum to Jarquez Hunter, completely irrelevant in my mind. And I
think that's fair.
I think Marshawn Lloyd gets drafted in round 6 this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't take Lloyd over most of the guys we discussed. That's a great point.
It's just, I don't know. Like, I really don't think it's gonna. We'll see, but I think there's gonna be a lot of guys. It's gonna totally depend on the situation for some of these guys. But I think there's a potential for a lot of late round guys to completely buck the trend for people who are drafted in that range.
Yeah, I love it. All right, that's Jacob Gibbs. I'm Dan Schneier. This is Beyond the Box Score. Please keep it locked and loaded with us. Hit the like button right now. Leave a comment, download, subscribe, rate on iTunes and Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. You'll see this in the feed, both on YouTube and Spotify and on our iTunes feed as well as Spotify. We're coming at you twice a week moving forward. So expect good content, and we're going to try our best to get you guys and girls situated with the best possible fantasy draft picks you can make. So please do your part to help us support the show. And otherwise, have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.